Hi, everyone. Today I am joined by Emma Cortes, who is a full time content creator, but she has such a cool story to how she got there. I followed her on Instagram, I think, for a couple years, and I'm not gonna spoil it by telling her story, but having watched her journey, I just knew that she'd be like a really interesting guest. So I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I was very flattered and very excited when you tweeted me and then DM'd me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you sure me?"
No, I'm sure. No, but, I know that you're busy, you just got married, so that's huge.
Yes, thank you. Literally, has it been, oh my gosh, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? It kind of feels like it's been a blur. But yeah, recently got married, and just, yeah, trying to get back into the swing of things.
Totally. Okay, so tell me more about what content you create and, how you've kind of gotten to, the specific, niche that you're in right
Yes,
now.
of course. So I can just give like a quick background on coming into content creation. And so again, everyone, my name is Emma Cortez. I am a Seattle content creator, and my blog and Instagram at Emma's Edition aims to inspire the modern woman to create and travel in style. So I primarily share fashion and style. That was kind of the content pillars and niches I started in, and then as I've grown as a creator and just evolved in life, I've also included Instagrammable spots as well as content creation tips. And then, in addition to that, I'm also a podcast co host of the Content Creatives podcast. My friend Maddie and I were both Seattle creators. We shoot tons of content together, and we decided that it would be fun to launch a podcast dedicated to aspiring influencers and content creators, and our mission there is to inspire creatives to discover, grow, and own their brand. So I feel like I've been doing this for like ever, and I know there's like the OGs have truly been doing it for a lot longer than me. But I started Emma's Edition my senior year of college in 2014. So I've been doing it for quite some time, but I really did not start taking it seriously until 2016. So 2016, I went to my first blogging event, and I was like, what the heck? Like I didn't even know there were like blogging events in Seattle. Like I knew they had those events in like LA and New York, but I was like, wow. And then just like seeing examples of like other women who have like monetized their influence or even like taken blogging full time, I was like, I didn't even know I could do this. So really started to take content creation full time in 2016. So yeah, is there anything specific I can dive into? I feel like I don't want to like tack the whole block. Here's my life story.
No, you were totally, I mean, that's what this is for. So, I obviously have specific questions, but you can share, as much or as little as you want to. I was gonna ask you though, so I know that you started your blog in college. Were you what was the thought process? Like creative outlet, just for
Oh
fun?
yes,
I'm sure you were not imagining that you'd be doing it full time.
that's
So,
yeah, no, thank you so much for asking that question. So in college, I majored in business. And one thing about the Foster School of Business at the University of Washington, like fall is recruiting season, and it's a very intense time your senior year where there's interviews and there's career fairs and there's employers. And so at the time, I knew I was either going to go and work in tech. I was in final round interviews for Google. Or I was going to go to Boeing because I had interned in aerospace for 2 years, or I was going to go to PepsiCo. I had an offer to go into the CPG industry. So I knew I was like, hey, I'm going to like live a very corporate lifestyle. Like I'm going to go into sales, or I'm going to go into like finance, or I don't know. I was just like, hey, I need like a creative space because fashion was something I really loved and I enjoyed. I really didn't have a ton of opportunity in college to pursue that. And so, honestly, just seeing like the rise of blogs like Amisong, um, and just like other real life women who started blogs. And I was like, oh my God, like they're not models. Like they're just like regular, degular, like girls like me.
People, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what inspired me. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna have a creative outlet. I'm gonna have this blog where I'm writing and just showing like my love of fashion." So that's why I picked Emma's Edition, like my take on fashion and style, and you just go from there. But you're right, I had no intention. Like, if you had told me I would have taken it full time, I would have been like, "What are you talking about? Like, this is not the plan." So, yeah, that's primarily the reason why I started. But then, yeah, I was like, okay, 2016, like let's take this seriously. Like let's see where this goes. And then in 2016, I left. I actually ended up working for PepsiCo for a year in California. Then I was like, okay, I actually want my grad. I want my I want my master's in the Boeing company, the company I worked for the last 6 years, actually pays for your master's. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to go back, get my master's versus like PepsiCo I think only paid like 8,000 a year. So I was like, yeah, look, I got to get this. I got to get my degree. So I'm
Right.
going to go back. um, and so with that, I felt more stable. I wasn't like trying to figure out like how to balance, like I feel like the first 1 or 2 years out of college, you're like, what's happening? And then I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to start taking vlogging more seriously. I feel a little bit more stable in my career. And then it's grown from there. So yeah.
And did you have so I know you said taking it more seriously, but did you kind of have an epiphany? I talked to a lot of bloggers, who have felt this way where you realized you could make actual money from it. Or was like,
Oh my gosh.
wait, yeah.
Yes, 100%. And I think that's like such a big realization for so many influencers and content creators, right? Whichever way you decide to like build your business, just the realization that you could make money from being creative, that was like huge to me because
Mind blowing,
I
yeah.
was like, wait, and yeah, at the Seattle blogging event I went to, they talked about being able to make money, and I just was like shocked. I was like, I didn't even know people were making money. Like, what are you talking about? And yeah, there's like a lot of misconceptions, like you need to be at this follower amount, you need to be whatever, these metrics, this, that. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna do everything I can to learn about blogging and like building your brand and your influence and just going from there. And so, yeah, that's like a great point. That the big realization of just realizing I could do that. And honestly, for like the first, so 2016 and 2018, I was like, man, I just want to cover photography costs because I'm hiring my photographer friends because I was like, I want to pay them, but like I also like because I want great content and I work full time. And for me, I would rather outsource photography and focus on writing and other things. And so um, I would say from 2016 till through 2017, I started covering my cost and like getting brand partnerships to at least pay for photography. But yeah, I was like, man, I'm operating at a loss. Like I need to like make a little bit more money if I'm going to devote this, my side hustle. I do enjoy it. I do love it, but I just want to cover my photography costs and like not operate a loss anymore. So, yeah, anyways, kind of a long way-winded answer.
No, I think it's so interesting because I know that the process is different for everyone. But at this time you're balancing it with your full-time job.
I am. So, yeah, 2016 through 2021, I worked in the aerospace industry. And then from 2017 to 2019, I was in grad school. So I would work my 7 to 3:30, my full-time job, and then I got my master's in digital media, which I'm very passionate about. I loved my master's program. And so I worked full time, would go to school in the evenings from 6 to 10 twice a week, or 6 to 10 once a week in a Saturday class. And I did that for 2 years. And then I didn't give up my blog. So it's funny because my now husband, he was like, hey, like, something has to give. Like, are you gonna cut back? And I was like, yeah, yeah, I'll cut back. And I was like, no, I did not cut back. The exact opposite happened. It was like everything I was learning in grad school and my UX classes, like I would just take everything I learned and implement it to Emma's Edition, and I would use my blog and my Instagram as all my homework examples. So I did not cut back, did not cut back. But yeah, very busy time in my life, but honestly, and I know everyone has a different perspective about school, their degrees, like how it's helped them in their careers. I totally get it. Like it's very varied. There's not like a one path, one journey for everyone, but my business degree and my master's in digital media degree like directly helped me become a better content creator and a businesswoman. So very grateful for like those educational opportunities because again, I just don't think I would be where I'm at or like have taken content creation full time if I didn't have, some of those lessons that I learned in school. So yeah,
And, I love what you do, and I love your background because I do think there's still this maybe like a little bit sexist perception of an influencer being like, a girl with an iPhone. So I know you have a lot of thoughts on that.
that is such, oh my god, I need to like make that like a graphic or like a meme or something like that. Yeah, and I will say I know again, every influencer, every creative runs their business differently, approaches it differently because I've come from I think the last 6 years in corporate America again business school degree, master's of communication and digital media. I come at this like very business minded. Like I set a financial revenue target every year. I have a financial revenue goal monthly and quarterly. I obviously understand my expenses when I think of bringing on a brand partnership or starting, adding on courses, whatever that looks like, right? Like I think I just approach things in a very, I don't know, maybe traditional business sense, right? Like looking at opportunity costs, looking at switching costs, looking at, balancing like your time, your money, your schedule, all those things. And so that probably sounds like, I don't know what that sounds, maybe it doesn't sound like anything, but sometimes I'm like, is this too crazy to like come at it, come at it like,
No, and I think that I think it's important though because yes, like there's nothing wrong with just like snapping pictures and uploading them, but it almost minimizes the amount of work that goes into like being successful to just like when people assume that there's no strategy or like rhyme or reason behind what you're doing.
that is
So
like, yeah. And that's exactly, I think, what I'm hopefully that's what's coming across. It's like, girl, if it works for you, take your iPhone pics. Like, but the reality is you're still, receiving products, you're still figuring out where to shoot. There's like strategy and plan
right.
involved in executing, especially if you as a creator, your main mode or one of your main modes of bringing in an income is to work with brands. One thing I will say, I was a project manager for 4 years. I use my project management skills every day as a content creator. And I
Totally.
and I see brand partnerships. I mean, they're like projects. You go through the project life cycle, start to finish, right? Like outlining the statement of work, when content drafts are due, approvals, submissions, posting. So, anyways, there's like a whole. I see it as like project life cycles, and each brand is a client. So, again, I know it might be too much for people to be like, no, it's not that complicated, but that's how I guess I run my business
Yeah.
blog, my Instagram.
I think that that's great though. And I think again it like kind of helps like remind people that like it is a legitimate like in a legitimate industry and like a legitimate job. Um
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say I still have a few of my older uncles who have been like, and it's fine. Like I know, and if you think about it, right, Instagram was 2010 is when the app launched. Like it's only been around for 11 years. So I have two uncles who,
right.
no, what's your job? No, uncle, like this is my job. It's like, "No, no, 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 I know that you do that, like, but, like, what's gonna be your job?" And I'm like, "Well, it's" and it's fine, it's fine, like, I know they mean well and they just, like, want me to be obviously, like, stable in my career, but I don't even think they can, like, wrap their brains around, like, this type of freelance creative job, so
Yeah. Totally a generational thing. I've run into that with my family too. I just started telling people, I still do freelance writing, but my older family members, I'm just like, yeah, I'm a writer.
I love
It kind of cover, you know what I mean? Because if I started trying to explain it, it would it would take a long time. But so with your blogging, I know that you kind of explained how you manage it, but I think it's so interesting that you're open about so much of the behind the scenes down to the numbers. How did you decide? Because again, it can be like a very like tricky thing for people to navigate. How did you decide to be like so transparent about it all?
this is, like, such a great question. Thank you for asking it. So, I will say there's 2 reasons why I talk about money on Instagram and on my blog. Number 1, I was very, very frustrated, in my early years of taking Emma's Edition more seriously on how vague and how veiled conversations about money were. I would literally ask people, like, I literally was like, "No, I don't understand how you make money." And people in the Seattle blogging community respond to me and they'd be like, "Well, you throw a number out there and then you just see what they say." And I was like, "What the sorry?" I could and I used to get so mad at that, and I was like, "You don't even have to tell me how much money you make." I'm, like, asking and I probably could have asked these questions better, like, like, what does that mean, right? And so, one, I was there. I just know how frustrating it is to just want to understand the modes on how you make money as a content creator, as an influencer. And now it's like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, there's a lot more articles and resources about affiliate marketing or affiliate links and working with brands. But like at the time, 2016, I would nothing. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to be
Right.
that person who says throw a number out there. Like, no, I want to say think about your fixed costs. Think about like what how they plan to use your content. So that's one. And then number two, I think as a woman of color, we have to talk about money. Like that is something I inherently feel. I think to continue to build well, it'll be me, like hopes of building like generational wealth, right? Like understanding that financial well-being is well-being. And so for me
Yeah.
personally and inherently, I talk about money both on my blog and my Instagrams, but these are conversations I have with my girlfriends. Like this year, all my girlfriends, I'm like, we're investing. Everybody, pick whatever we want to pick Robinhood, you want to pick Merrill Lynch, or whatever you want to pick. We're gonna start to invest. There's a investing gap, right? And like if we want to have the option to retire early or retire comfortably, like let's round it out with investing. So like these are just things I'm already talking about.
Right.
Um, yeah, I know I just know money is such a sensitive topic to many women and women of color. One, because societally, right? Like, there's I know every family is different, but societally, typically, women are just have not been brought up or conditioned to talk about money. And
Yeah.
so I know that probably makes people feel very uncomfortable. But then at the same time, I'm like, you guys, like, whether you want to be a content creator, a photographer, someone who designs websites, money is a part of business. And therefore, we need to talk about business and we need to talk about money. Like, it's just the business part. We're not talking about your value as a person, right? We're not bringing anyone down. We're literally talking about money. So, and which means we're just talking about business. And so I've been trying, that's been like kind of a personal like mission, right? Like, you guys, like, this is not to tear anyone down, but like, I just want to empower other women, especially women of color, to like understand that you, and this was my experience, right? Like, I got laid off. I was the only woman of color on my team and I got axed. and therefore unable to climb the corporate ladder that I originally had planned. But then I realized, I was like, wait, I can make my own money. I can make six figures without climbing. Like, this is a way shorter path of building my career and building wealth. And so, yeah, again, kind of a long-winded answer, but those are really the two main reasons why I talk about money, and I'm try to be more transparent about it.
I think that that is, you're because you're so right. It for me, it wasn't until I had friends who were willing to be open that I had an idea of what people were charging, and then I was like, "Wow, I've been undercharging by a lot." And so I think that if we can eliminate those, kind of those barriers, I think it's so important. Have you received any, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but I did income reports for like a brief amount of time and I got some interesting responses to say the least. Are people usually receptive or have you received any pushback for being so open?
Um, I kind of, it maybe I've had, but most of 90% of the messages and comments I get is wow, I didn't even know it was possible to replace my full-time income, or
Right.
hey, like, thanks for talking about this. Like, I didn't even know I could charge for this or I could consider that. So overwhelmingly, it's been positive. I feel like I've seen more conversations not directed at me. I think one thing I've noticed is more there's been a little bit more influencers talking about money, and there's been some, posts and conversations about when did becoming a content creator just, become about, making money and blah blah. I was like, you can no, you can make money and be creative. I was like, you also
Yeah.
talk about money if you don't want to. And so I have seen some of those posts, but again, it's all about what you want to share, right? Like, you can be creative. You don't have to look at people's money posts, and because the intention again, right, is like not to bring people down. It's to empower other women and women of color to know that they can charge their worth. They can push their rates. They can make a lucrative side hustle, or they can replace their full-time job, if that's the plan, if that's what they want to do. And so, but yeah, that's a great question. I was so nervous to start explicitly saying, like, especially since I launched my first course, the negotiations course, last fall, and I was really nervous to even just say, I was like, hey, I made $40,000 on the side in 2019, like, with my blog and Instagram. Like, I don't want, I was just like, oh my gosh, but the truth is, like, implementing your business sense, implementing what I learned in grad school, being confident in my ability to make money as a creator, like, that 40K, like, it was originally going to help pay for our wedding, but like went towards a down payment on our house. Like, it makes such
Mhm.
a big difference. Like so anyways, I just knew, I was like, you know what, like, my greater purpose and my intention, like, I think this is going to help more people than not. So, like, let me continue talking about this.
I yeah, I love that you're doing that. And I love the community you've built. I think that it can be rare to find influencers who have like actual like cohesive communities rather than just people who like occasionally like or comment on posts. So I think that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think for a while now, I'm at peace, and I think it took me a while to get there. But I mean, and everyone's balancing things, right? But like, I look at creators I started with who are at 300,000 followers, 500,000 followers, and I'm like, wow, I'm not there. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't. I'm so happy with a
Right.
community who shows up every day, who listens to the podcast, who actually, like, leaves engaging comments, who reads my blog and, like, keeps, what I mean? So it's like, that's like way, way more valuable to me. And especially since I think it excuse me, it gave me, and it took me some time to like figure out what I was going to say and why I was going to say it. So
Hmm. Um, Yeah, and it's so funny because I can totally relate to, like, the, I don't wanna call them vanity metrics because I mean, having a lot of followers is awesome, and, like, obviously, like, we all celebrate these follower milestones, but, it's just so funny, it never ends because 'cause I'm like, "Man, if I were at 100K, I'd want 200K."
I
Like
get it. I get
like, are you ever happy? But, Yeah, no, community definitely matters more. But okay, so walk me through how you decided to go full. I mean, I know that you've mentioned that you were laid off, but what was that process like deciding to go like full time with this?
Yes. Okay, so I did get laid off in 2021, but I'm actually going to back up to 2018. So
Hmm.
2018, my second quarter of grad school, I was like, oh wow, like I love digital media. I was like, I actually think I'm going to change like career goals because originally I went to get my master's because my former company was like, you need a master's if you want to climb. Like that,
Yeah.
get your master's and then we can talk about, management opportunities. So it's like, fine, like I guess I'll get my master's. I was like, but I'm gonna get it. It's something that like I'm really passionate about and I could see my former company like benefiting because like I'm sure they're going to integrate more digital media solutions in the company, but I was like, "Hey, I'm going to pick something I like." So, but I finished my first quarter in grad school in 2017 and then by my second quarter I was like, "Oh my god, I want to do this full time." So, how I plan for it. Number one, I sat my parents down. I'm not living with my parents. I haven't lived with them for years, but um, I really, I wanted their support. I would have done it if they still disapproved, but I wanted to keep them in the loop. I think one thing I've learned, no matter what career you're at, or where you're at in your career, is just to keep your family and your friends in the loop, right? Just let them know
Yeah.
what the plan is, right? Like and I know like especially like with immigrant parents, I mean like my parents came over from the Philippines and their idea was you get a college education and you get a stable job and then we made it. And so
Hmm.
for me, I sat them down and I was like, this is my plan. I am going to stay at Boeing until 2021 and then I'm going to leave because I was like, I told them, I was like, I think I can do this. I'm not happy, at my company. It's been, oh my gosh, and it could be a different podcast episode. It's like, it was a fight to get promoted. It took 8 levels of management.
Hmm.
It took escalations. I was like, I just can't, have every step of my career be a fight like this. And I know what I'm good at. And now, I'm getting more experience and learning more. And then I told my parents, I was like, I'm going to be financially preparing for this. I'll figure out what to do with healthcare. I'll figure out what to do with retirement, and I'm going to be saving. I'll have a 6 month emergency fund. And so, um, they actually took it better than I expected. Like I thought they were going to like fight me, but they didn't. And so, but for at least like that year or two, they were like, can you just like switch teams? Can you go to a different part of the company? Can you find an easier job? And I was like, no, like this is my plan. And I also told my boyfriend, my husband at the time, I was like, this is my plan. I have to stay at this company for 2 years after I graduate, or else I pay the degree back. And I won't do that because I want this degree. And so, and so I was like, I graduate in 2019. I'm going to stay till summer of 2021 and then I'll leave. So already in my head, long-term plan. And then pandemic hits 2020.
Hmm.
And I'm sure everyone has heard the reports, and if you don't, 95% of global air travel plummeted. Like
Yeah.
no one was traveling.
Yeah.
The demand for new aircraft, customers were canceling airplane orders. I mean, why would you need airplanes if no one's traveling? So,
Totally.
and I actually had moved into the supply chain part of the business. And so supply chain was directly affected along with all the other supply chain people. And so, um, yeah, it's crazy. So this year, like where we're recording, the rumors were going around that layoff notices were
Hmm.
coming. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, by the end of this month, early July, I got my layoff notice. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh my God, I'm getting laid off. But ended up ended up all working out. So last summer, I went, it was a very emotional, very up and down summer because I started letting like former managers and directors know that I was leaving. I got my layoff notice and I was lucky. I mean, people were offering, I got 3 different job offers to stay.
Mhm.
And so I was like, wait, like, do I stay or like, do I take my layoff notice? Because by the time those offers had rolled in, um, I was also kind of like, "Oh, I think, like, this is the time I should take this full time versus next
Yeah.
summer," because, I was, like, reading through everything. I would get paid out my sick leave and vacation. I would get severance pay, and they also I was shocked. They were like, "Oh, no, you don't pay anything for your master's program since we're laying you off." And I was like, "You
Wow.
pay for my degree, and now you're like" okay. I was like, "Oh my god, like, this is, like, a huge blessing." So I
That's amazing.
So it's kinda like, when the universe just, like, lines it up for you, and, like,
Yeah.
you think you might not be ready, but actually, like, the time is now, and so, yeah, I think I cried the entire month of July trying to figure out if it made sense to stay or go. And the job opportunities were back in the factory. So I actually worked like in a manufacturing facility for 4 years with the safety vest and the closed toe shoes and the safety glasses. And I was like, I actually don't want to do that anymore. Like I've done that. I've appreciated like everything I've learned. And then I was like, okay, I've already had my 6-month emergency savings. My husband, my parents, every single person I talked to, I was shocked. Every single person said, "Well, it sounds like it's time to take content creation full time. Well, it sounds like you should take Emma's Edition full time. Oh, I think this is the time to do." But I was like, every single
Right.
person. And so, I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take the leap. Like, I know I've been financially preparing for this. My friends and family are on board. Now it's time for me to like get out of my own way and like not choose fear and just like take that jump." And so, went full time in September of 2020. So, excuse me, but yeah, that is like I mean, it was such a crazy time, but you know what? Here I am. I'm fine, but this time last year, I was pretty stressed out. So yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. But hey, now you're out earning yourself, which is incredible.
Yeah, that was, so one thing I've done is I've always set, like, financial revenue goals
Mhm.
for Emma's Edition, and so last year, I just happened and I remember writing it down in January and being like, "This is, like, such an audacious goal," but I was like, "I'm just gonna write it down. I wanna match my corporate salary of $90,000, and if I can do that, then I can show myself and everyone." I don't think anyone cared, I think it was more for me that my that my switching costs would be virtually pretty minimal, like, if I can make what I make here, then, like, I know I could do that on the blog end, so, um which is funny. So I got laid off, and like by the end of the year, I like still contracted 90K over 90K in partnerships. And so I was like, wow, like I did it. Like I out earned myself. And then now this time this year, like we're halfway through the year, and I've already contracted over 90K in partnerships. And I'm like, this is the craziest. If I could only tell 2020 Emma that everything was gonna be okay. But, yeah, so, that's I can't believe it, but that's where we're at, you know?
That is awesome. And I again, when I had Tommy on, we were talking about this, there is this idea, um, that I even run into from people that, whatever the rate is, I can't pull it off my head, that formula that everyone assumes the companies use where like you make $100 if you have 10K, and you
Yes,
know what I mean?
the one set per follower.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, um, are people ever surprised that you're like, I guess still, I don't know the range if it's micro influencer or whatever the term is. Like how do people react to that?
Oh my gosh, girl, when I started coming forward and just started talking about negotiating and, like, the factors you can consider to increase your rate and how I match my former corporate salary, I had girls at 150K, at 500K, half a million followers, messaging me, asking me, "How? How are you
Mhm.
doing this? Like, I can't even get a brand to pay me $500 a post. I can't even get a brand to pay me $1,000 a post. And I was shocked. I was like,
Mhm.
500,000 followers. I was like, wait, what? And so, I mean, again, like, I think it just takes, I don't know. I feel like it just takes time. It takes some business acumen. It takes having a great community of influencers you can go to bounce your rates off, to talk about, if there's updates on how people are charging, just like having a great community. There's so, I know that, you need all those things, but yeah, people were like shocked when I was like, yeah, I'm not at 500,000. I'm not even at 100K or 50K, right? Like, I'm still a micro influencer, and like I'm able to like bring in six figures. And so I know, I mean, that kind of still sounds like a little crazy to me, but it's totally possible. The influencer industry is $1 billion industry. And we've
Right.
all been influenced by some way, shape, or form. And um I was actually listening to a podcast episode by Gary Vee, and he had like top CMOs for 10 minutes. And Kroger, one of the Kroger CMOs said, she's like, oh my gosh, it's so interesting. When you promote products with people who look like them and talk like them, that piece of content works. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, that's exactly why we're
That's how it works.
That's exactly
Um,
how it works. Yeah.
and shifting gears a tiny bit, but what does your day-to-day look like? I know you've got courses, your blog, your podcast, and a life. So, how are you balancing all of
That's such a great question, and I should do like an in-depth thing. So for me, I am a person of routine and consistency. I part maybe it's because I came from like, you know, the last 6 years in manufacturing and aerospace, and things were on like timelines and stuff. So I start my morning Monday through Fridays, even sometimes like on the weekends. I start my mornings the same way. Mornings are like my most important time to me to start off refreshed and, just feeling good. So I walk my dog Boone every morning. I like wake up between 6:30 to 7:30. I literally like will pull my dog out under the bed. I swear he loves his walks, but he's like, no, not the harness. Um, I walk him, and then, I'll have breakfast, and then I take time to just journal, even if it's 15 or 20 minutes. That to me has been like immensely like it's so helpful for my mental health, because in 2020 or coming into 2020, I was in a really bad like burnout cycle. Um,
it?
and journaling really helped me do that. And so I typically start my mornings just like that. And then Tuesdays, I reserve specifically for podcast related stuff. I found that if I just pick a full day to publish the podcast, write the new outline, send the email, post on Facebook, like do all the podcast stuff, I do that on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, I record. And I actually record in person with my friend Maddie. We were just having too many audio issues. So I was like, we just got
Right.
to do this in person and like catch when the mics are off. And so I would say Tuesdays and Wednesdays are my podcast days. Um, and then kind of in between, sometimes it's email, sometimes I'm shooting content, um, sometimes I'm writing blog posts, sometimes I'm writing captions. But what I've learned about myself is I really do like a lot of heavy lifting the beginning of the week. So the Monday and Wednesday, I'm really busy. Like, I write my captions out for the week. Again, podcast outlines, blog posts, and then through the week I'm just executing. By Friday, and I was like, maybe I should just take like Fridays off because I'm like so tired of the end of the week. um, and then by Fridays are always light days. But yeah, that's primarily it. And then with shooting, since Maddie still works full time, we shoot on the weekends. So typically Saturdays, every other Saturday, we're usually shooting. Um, and then with my other photographer, Holly, I really try to like keep it within like the work week so I can have the weekends sometimes. Um, and
Right.
right now we're lucky because it's summertime and the sun sets at 9 p.m. And so we have time after work to shoot.
And I love one that you, like, collaborate with a friend because all of your content with Maddie is so cute. I'm gonna obviously link all of Emma's stuff, but if you're new, you have to check out her feed because it's absolutely just so fun to follow and so much joy. But how do you? Because you put a lot of effort into a lot of your photo shoots, which I love. How do you balance that, and how do you come up with like creative ideas?
So this is where it really helps when you just have that creative friend. I would say Maddie's like my creative partner. Like I know that sounds like it's like Brandon's my husband, like this is my best friend, like Maddie's my creative partner, which is like so funny to say. Okay, so this is really how we do it. It's a little bit more intense during like the last half of the year just with the holidays, right? And it's like holiday season and then Valentine there's like really big holidays that kind of happen in that time frame. On a monthly basis, if not quarterly, we put together these Google slide presentations and we put out like what we want to shoot together, especially if it's like holiday related. And so like it's just the best way to get organized because one, we it's cheaper if you're able to like share cost, right? If you're like buying
Yeah,
things for photo shoots and like I know some creators, I've heard like creators say like, "Oh no, I would never like buy additional things." But it's like, but if it makes the photo a little bit better or like and I think
yeah,
for us like that's part of the creative process is like pulling in fruit, pulling in props. And so coming up with ideas again monthly basis or quarterly basis Google slide deck, and if there's a holiday we literally will list out photo ideas that we want to do. We don't execute on all of them but probably a majority of them we do, and then we pick out like for example we literally just did one yesterday because we're shooting Saturday for summer like photo shoot ideas, just summer content so we could post throughout summer. And it's like lemonade stand, so okay, I'm gonna I'll buy the lemons, I'll bring my lemonade. I actually have like a stand that I set up. And then our second concept is hanging by the beach, and Maddie has the pool floaties, and we have our beach towels. And so it's like it just helps us like lay everything out and get organized. And because I think as creators, we know the stress of like trying to produce a ton of content beautifully,
yeah.
consistently, and then also like the stress of being like, oh my God, but like, what do I shoot or post today? Um, so planning ahead really like helps us and helps me being like, oh, okay, like since we're planning this out, I know what my blog posts are going to look like. I know where we're shooting this weekend. I know what props I need to source this week. So yeah, it just really, really helps us stay organized. So yeah, that's a really big reason why. And then just a quick little tidbit. Number two, what really helps me too to like continue to kind of come up with creative ideas, just doing a content audit on yourself, looking at your Instagram analytics, seeing what posts are performing well, and like seeing if you can build on those things. And so an example for this is like my spring photos, if I post tulips and flowers, it always like performs really well. I mean, which makes sense. Like I love flowers. It's the travel aspect and I can bring in the fashion and the dresses. And um, so if you're looking at your analytics and you're seeing that like spring flowers and dresses work really well, right? Like what other ways can you execute similar types of content? And so you're not necessarily coming up with a whole brand new idea, but like you have a starting point. And so if you look back at my feed, it's like tulips, daffodils, a different tulip field, cherry blossoms. It's like I have like the whole array of flowers.
Right.
Yeah.
And winding down a little bit, I so appreciate your time. And I have to say, if you're an aspiring influencer, content creator, blogger, whatever, follow Emma because literally every caption is like a wealth of knowledge.
Sweet.
But what advice would you give to someone who is hoping to take this full time? And again, I know that you already do this every day, so maybe I'll add the caveat because you have kind of an interesting path of someone who's thinking about leaving their job to do this when it feels unconventional.
Yeah. So I can answer kind of both. So number one, like if you're interested in becoming a content creator or influencer, number one piece of advice is just start creating content. start taking photos, start editing photos, start filming videos, see if it feels fun, see if you enjoy it, like see if you get that excitement or that thrill, right? Um, I say that because I've had put people who are interested in becoming bloggers specifically, and they're like, should I start a blog? And I was like, well, is writing fun for you? And people are like, no, I hate writing. Then I'm like, then don't start a blog. There's other
Right.
I was like,
Totally. That makes a lot of sense.
no, like, you don't have to pick a medium that feels like a chore, right? Like, and for you, right? Like, I'm sure with a podcast, like, you like talking to people, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not like, oh my God, like, I'm sure you have days where you're tired, but for the most part, it's like kind of a fun experience to connect with others.
Yeah, it's enjoyable.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
mhm. So that's number one. And then two, if you're thinking about leaving your full-time job, I oh my gosh, like, obviously, I'm gonna be like, think of healthcare, think of retirement, think of emergency savings, but, like, more than anything and this, I'm sure people will land and feel differently just depending on where you're at. You just have to be confident in yourself and, like, be confident in your ability to make money as a creator because at the end of the day, right, like, this is kinda goes back to, like, when I decided to take it full time, I was like, I want to bet on myself. I want to be the one to like see that I had it in me. And if I fail, then like failure is a part of the process. But guess what? You're adaptable. You're smart. You'll get back up on your feet. Like it's okay. And so just kind of have that confidence, right? Like take that leap and bet on yourself and know that you can do that. So yeah, that's my pieces of advice.
Yeah, it's so good. Well, thank you so much, Emma. Again, I've been doing this for a while, but I genuinely enjoy following you just because I feel like you, um, just the way you do things, is so it's what I'm trying to say is like I learn a lot from you and the way that you approach this and the fact that you put so much thought into it and also prioritize the business side. So thank you for your time. Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate coming on today and chatting with you. I mean, um, I yeah, just every time I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just can't believe you're kind of catching me on like literally this month this year's when I got my layoff notice and I had no idea like
Mhm.
my life was going to change in 12 months. And so
Right.
to like talk about it like retrospectively has it's been fun. I'm glad we were able to connect today and like chat about this. But yeah, thank you again inviting me as a guest.
Yes, of course. Thanks for coming. Okay, so this is I'll type it all out in the show notes, but I always ask if you're willing to share where people can find you, follow you, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, do you want me to just say it real quick?
Yeah, you can just say it.
All right, so you guys can find me at Emma's Edition on Instagram as well as TikTok, and you can find my blog www.emmasedition.com, and you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts at the Content Creatives Podcast.
Awesome. And one last time, I'm going to plug her courses because she has them and they're awesome. So that's
Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't even say that. Yes, I have courses, you guys. So
you're fine. You're fine.
my my very first course, how to negotiate paid brand collaborations. It's 12 email templates. You literally could just have a side by side when you're getting ready to negotiate with brands. It's the exact email templates I use to negotiate, and so really that course is just to help you gain that confidence to negotiate and ask for your rate as a content creator. I also have a goal setting course, very big on goals. I set annual, quarterly goals. It's just helped me so much. And so poured everything I learned into that. And then my most recent course is build an engaged community with your content plan and strategy. You guys, you literally get like my grad school exercises and lessons in this course. So you don't have to take all those UX classes. You can just take this course and like not have to do the 2 years because it's just what I've taken and implemented into content creation and building my community. So yeah, lots of different courses out there, all intended to help influencers and content creators, lean into their influence and maximize, kind of the business side of things, and then also just like learn how to build their community. So, yeah, thanks for reminding me to do that.
I had to. I'm like, all right, people are gonna want to learn from her. I've got to, got to put it out there. Well, thank you again, Emma. I so appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.